I'm Kenton Row. I'm a photographer out of Helena, Montana. I've done work for National Geographic, teaching for them. I'm kind of a unique photographer in that I've done a lot of work for conservation agencies, but also the hunting industry. And I love making images that tell a story, that grab people's attention, and I really look for ways that are outside of the box to do that. About a year ago this time, I got a call from David Strandberg asking me if I might be interested in a project for a new brand called Numa. And honestly, I don't think he even told me the name. He was about as sketchy as you can be, like trying to not give details. But he worked for a company that had been working on a product that they were looking to bring to market. And he started talking to me about bringing this product to life in a new way that really captured the spirit of hunting. I really love projects that are combine outdoors with nature and people and lifestyle. And when David called me and asked me if I'd be interested in this project, there's a lot of things that really stuck out to me. Primarily that it was a completely new product, that I wasn't trying to mimic something somebody else had done or take something in a little bit different direction, but it was a brand new start. And it was really explained to me as kind of a blank slate to start with as far as what it would even look like. It was almost billed as testing the equipment. We talked about setting up a lot of scenarios where it would show real life situations that people get in. Some of the shooting we did was a guy crossing a river that was waist deep, and how the gear performs, and that is part of hunting. It was a photography project, but being in Montana, it required a lot more out of me. First of all, one of the objectives was to use real hunters, not models that didn't know their way around a bow. People that are used to being out in the mountains and hiking. And so tracking down the right people for that, we'd settled on a number of 4 that we were looking for. And they were guys that I knew from the Helena community that had a lot of experience bow hunting. That was one of the first objectives. And I find models, but it's typically, and often in that way, just, hey, I have this project I'm shooting, can you come stand in for me? But this was taking them away from their jobs for a couple days and finding the right people for that was a little bit of an endeavor. Just logistically, I knew we were going to be in remote areas of Montana where there would not be, it wasn't like you could run to the local cafe for dinner after you're done with the shoot. So putting together, first of all, finding a cook that could come during that time of year for a few days, scheduling it was during hunting season that we were shooting, so scheduling a outfitter that had a pack train that we could use for the shoot. Lining that stuff out was somewhat of a challenge. Getting enough food for the whole project. There's a lot of uniqueness to this project that I had not had to deal with before. One of the things that we were looking for is every image was bringing the story of Numa to life, the story of a hunter who's not just a casual hunter, the story of a person who is not just jumping out of their truck to take a shot. It was about the guy who goes out and is living in the woods for a couple of days, who's has an honor for the land that they're hunting in, and the imagery was really about pulling some of that out. I know one of the images that I think everybody's seen now is the hunter crossing the beaver dam at night, and that image is about, you sit in the tree stand or you stalk until it's dark, and then you gotta trail out back to your camp or your vehicle, whatever it is. But it's capturing images that told that story. Montana was a great place for shooting Numa. Geographically, there is so many different variations. So you have the high mountain alpine, you have the Missouri River Badlands, and because of that variety, it offers a lot of opportunities to show the gear being used in areas where it really would. We did a good job of establishing between putting the Numa pattern next to grasses, cottonwoods that were in fall colors. That was easy to do. We establish that well in Montana, but we also needed to show that it would work in eastern environments too, in the way that hunters in the east hunt. And so initially there was two color palettes they were looking at. One was more of a gray, and then there's the terra pattern that you will see here at launch. The terra pattern I found could work in both alpine and the Missouri River Breaks Badlands. It did a great job. The earth tones, we did well there, and it was easy to show its effectiveness. But I also needed to show its effectiveness in Minnesota, in eastern type hunting. We needed to show it in tree stands, show it against hardwood forest trunks that most of us look at as pretty gray, but I was blown away with how well it matched the greens that are actually in the tree trunks and that sort of thing that matched well with the terra pattern. As a nature photographer, concealment is very important for me. Just 2 weeks ago, I was stalking and camped out at the edge of a fox family's den, and I want to be able to conceal myself to the place where even an adult is not going to blow out. You know, anybody can sit back from a distance with a big lens and get spectacular shots. To get the animal living in its environment and interacting, and you need to be close on that. And so concealment has been an important part of my work for a long time. And when I teach classes, I talk about lenses and camera bodies, but I talk about gear too, and what I wear. And as I was looking at the Numa brand, the pattern of camouflage, that's kind of my standard. I want it I want to be able to tell stories of being able to get close to wildlife the way that I've done with my ghillie suit or other camouflages. I really like the Numa pattern, the Numa color palette for concealment. The other thing about this brand that I really appreciated was after 8 days of having our models, quote unquote models, climbing up mountains, wading through rivers, up and down, trading gear, we threw it all in a box, and I had to send it to Minnesota. And after it sat overnight, after all these different guys had worn it and sweat in it and waded through water in it, I opened the box and I expect just a stench to come out, and I was blown away by the anti-odor properties of the product. It was amazing, and after about 2 days of gear that I'm used to using, it's starting to smell pretty fresh, and not in a good way. So I packed it up back in the box. I took it out of the box so I could fold it up nicely, and then put it back in the box and shipped it off. When I called to confirm, one of my first questions to David was, so did you pass out from the smell? And he didn't, even though that we'd put it through all that sweat and grime, and it wasn't mildewy. When I'm working on a project, it's got to be fun. From day one, I decided David Strandberg was the right guy to pick on. And we had a bunch of guys who didn't know each other that were sort of camping together and working together, hiking together, carrying gear together. And it needs to be a light environment and everybody needs to be enjoying it as much as possible. And so one of the ways to start that off with a bang was we snuck into David Strandberg's room while he was sleeping, well before sunup, and blew a bugle right in his ear. Well, I think the first morning he didn't know what to do with that, but the next morning when we woke him up with a bearskin growling, and I think he got used to it and realized that we were a fun group to work with. Working on this project, bringing the Numa brand to life, has been a great honor. It's time out in the field, showing hunters with their respect for the land, for their respect for the animals that they're going after, and bringing that all to life was one of the greatest projects I've had the opportunity to work on. and it was a lot of fun to work with the folks at Numa.